Hi there, Neil here, the Twisted Light Worker, taking you on a journey through Neil's garden this year, turning a flower bed into color, beauty, food, lots of food, and fun. I hope you enjoy this video and inspires you to get your fingers in the dirt next year. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit of my gardening. This whole section here on the side of the house that I just turned over was nothing but a whole bunch of weeds and a whole bunch of lilies that took over the patch. There was one peony stuck in there, in amongst it. It was all goldenrods and just an absolute mess. I pulled it all out and I've widened it. It used to only be about 18 inches wide, and now it's close to 4 feet. I took it out so that it's even with the porch. And when you see what I'm going to do with it, you're going to be surprised, because I'm going to show the city dwellers how they can make a garden in just a small amount of space. You can see here there's some irises in there. I'm going to take them out those irises out in the fall and clean all the grass and weeds and stuff out of there as well. But the whole side over here was in worse condition than that. So I'm digging it all down, widening it out, making a nice little place here so that it's easy to mow. No sharp corners, no dead ends. It's quite easy to mow. So I keep that in mind as I'm doing it as well. Now you can see I did not waste the lilies when I pulled them out, but a majority of them right around this tree, and once again making it easier to mow. There, I said I could show you from the street. There's my neighbor's bungalow side of this, and I live on the 2-story side. And as you can see, I stand for freedom. Freedom! Now this is the back side of my place. There's the bungalow side. This is my 2-story side. And this is the kitchen on the front. All of these lilies used to be right below the power. This year I decided to move them over here for 2 reasons. One, because this was a real pain in the ass place to mow back up in there. And also I wanted to keep this garden patch nice and wide and open so I can plant both eatables and flowers all along there and other goods. You'll see them all in the succession videos that will go on all summer, and I will show you how a small garden bed around your house will supply you with lots of food and beauty. Stay tuned. So there you are, my corner garden, and you can see that you can make it look pretty and have food to boot. Lots of fun. Lots of fun. Gotta love Mother Nature. You're gonna smile at what I'm doing. I'm making it look pretty as well as have some food. So look at that. We've got kale, coleus along the back. We've got carrot tops coming in behind the impatiens. We've got radishes coming over here. I put the radishes in, believe it or not. I planted this whole row, all carrots. And the carrots never came up from here on, so I added some radishes so that I could get some more food out of it. And I've got some ferns from the neighbor's yard. Said I could have them, so I helped myself. So this is with the corner that was such a mess. And those are borage plants. I'll show you one with flowers when I get to the backyard. Flower pots are doing well. Okay, so there's borage in a pot with some marigolds down at the bottom there. This is the backyard. Remember, I moved all over the lilies from the other place, and everything's going extremely well. I got homestead beefsteak tomatoes, got peppers, some Portuguese cabbage. Tastes like kale and grows a little bit like tobacco. And those homestead beefsteak are really a tall tomato. And you'll see that in behind here I have pepper. There's 3 peppers over here. So limited space, and it's all filled up. Got food and color in the backyard park. More along there. See the basil's doing nice. Purple kale, parsley, right on up to the corner. My plans for the side yard went kerfuffle. My tenant that lives in this side of the building was going to move out, and then he decided he was going to stay, and then he was going to do something with his garden. The only thing that's gone in there so far is some potatoes that came up from last year. I got them early so I could move them all to this end. And I had garlic going around the rose over there, because roses love garlic. And that rose is really blooming nice this year. This is the first time it ever has, so there must be some truth to that roses love garlic, because these roses are doing well. And since I lost this side of the house and the tenant's flower bed, I went across the street and dug up a neighbor's flower bed, and I'll show you that too. So there's the neighbor's corner yard and flower bed from a distance. Do what I can to zoom in and just walk down there. You've seen it up close, and now you can see it from a distance. It's going to look good when it's all in bloom. In fact, it looks good now. It looks way better than it did. Same with across the street at my place. See that corner flower bed? Is doing very well. And it looks good even from here. I don't know, here we are at the neighbor's yard, and I don't know what those weeds are. They're supposed to be a ground cover that was supposed to be used in a flower bed. And it went down all along here, and all along this whole flower bed, on the side of her property here in the neighbor's driveway. And these weeds took right over. They're disgusting. So I pulled them all out, turned it all over a few times, and we've got kale, coleus, kale, coleus, kale, coleus. We've got beets in front of the kale, and I got carrots in front of the coleus, and then I have borage from seed in front of the carrots, and marigolds in front of the beets. So this is going to be a pretty driveway. But you can see here how that I have to widen this, because these stupid plants, whatever they are, they just took over, and they're taking over the lawn. So now I'm going to have to dig this at least another 18 inches and turn it all over into soil. So between now and fall, I'll have that all turned over, and next spring it'll be a wide flower bed, and we'll be able to do even more magic with it. Food and color at the same time. And I will give you an update when it gets closer to harvest. August 15th in my front corner yard. You can see it's looking really good. There's a borage, shows you how big they're growing. And this baby has to go, it's a male. And all of the impatiens are growing extremely well. And you can see the carrots. I'm going to have a few carrots. And lesson learned is to plant the carrots just a little bit further back, and the kale a little bit further back, and the coleus is sneaking out. And I learned that it's they grow slow from seed. They probably would have done a little better had I used cloning. But there's a borage that's fallen over. It was standing really tall, and I should have got the camera out when it was at its full height and looking really good. But we had a rainstorm and it just knocked it down. But you can see we've got kale still to eat, and I've eaten lots, and I've done a whole bunch of home canning of my own soups and used a ton of it in there, and I still got lots to go. The peppers are doing not too bad, even in that secluded little spot. I'm going to get a few peppers on there, nothing, no big crop, but there'll be some. Marigolds once again are looking good, and the potted plants looking really nice. Neighbors have all had appreciative comments. They've told me I did a great job, and I'm inclined to believe them. Okay, here we are, August the 15th, and as you can see, the tomatoes have gone crazy, and I never took the suckers off, and usually beefsteak won't get that tall unless you do take the suckers off, so they're growing like nuts. The Portuguese cabbage, it's looking pretty good, and it sure is tasty. And the tomatoes grew so quickly, kind of got in the way of the other crop here. As you can see here, peppers are reaching for the sun, and it's because of the impatiens grew bigger than normal. And once again, tomato all the way up into the window. The borage is finished, so they've been removed from this pot, and the marigolds are doing well. And there you can see the borage finished. August 15th, borage is done, so I've been saving seeds. I learned it's no need to plant those things, borage, no need to plant them here in Ontario early. Don't need to start them indoors is what I mean by that. They grow too big. And across the street, August the 15th, my neighbor's garden. Got rid of that gout weed and did that all this year, and you can see the marigolds looking really good in the front. And the borage is, man, did they ever attract a pile of bees. And they're almost finished here too, but you can see they don't get quite as tall. I planted these borage here from seed, and I haven't had any yet, but my neighbor has had a few feasts of beet leaves, so we're going to have some beets coming from this garden. So we've got beets in color, and the kale, she's eaten a lot. We've given some away. Her grandchildren eaten a lot of smoothies with it. So the whole garden is looking pretty good, and I'll walk you around the corner just to show you. I planted a whole bunch of marigold seeds, and once again these marigold seeds were put under the magnet, and they're really blooming nicely, and these are just from seed. And this particular side of the garden doesn't take water it doesn't get much water, and the heat from the concrete dries it out. And look at, they're still doing well. So Two things we're learning here. We can have food and color in the same flower beds and save some food, eat some nutritious meals, and enjoy the color and the beauty at the same time. I'll show you a picture at the end, hopefully with a little bit of beet harvest. But the kale here has been feasted upon by numerous people, so I'll show you a little closer up. There's the kale and the coleus in between. Once again, the coleus would be way bigger had I grew them from clones as opposed to seed. Lots of fun. As you can see, food and flower beds, and nobody knows when they're walking by that we've been feasting right from the flower bed. My front yard's still looking real good. Flower pots still looking good. The borage once again here on the corner is just about finished, but I finally have the coleus starting to come into play. Got some peppers on the pepper plants in the back. You can see a super shepherd there. Nice pepper. Right in with the flowers. And you can see the carrot tops here. And looking inside, I'll see if I can do that today. We definitely have some carrots that are of decent size and worthy of eating. I couldn't keep up with the kale. It got away on me, and I even canned a bunch of soups with the kale. As you can see, our big friend in the back is pulled. It was a male. But the impatiens are still doing wonderful. My coleus in between the kale and the front looks really nice from the road, along with the flowers. And we'll get around here to the back. All of the impatiens are doing well. The Portuguese cabbage, tomato plant, crazy. All the way to the eaves trough. Would be higher if I would have stretched it out. And the cannabis is fighting for sun, but it's taken off now too because it's got above the peppers and the Portuguese cabbage. Lots of tomatoes on the tomato plants. This one here is pretty heavy. Tried to tie it up, but wasn't successful. Didn't do it soon enough. But there's tomatoes in amongst all that greenery there. Coleus in the back in front of the pepper and the tomato. And the purple kale grows taller than the other kale, and look at how the parsley looks in the flowers. New idea for next year. I'm going to be planting parsley in amongst my flowers because they actually look pretty. And it'll soon be time to chop a bunch of that up and put it in the freezer for winter soups. It's amazing how much food you can get along with color in a very small space. There's no excuse for anyone not to do some gardening and cut your food cost, eat healthier, enjoy the flowers, and quite honestly, enjoy getting your fingers in the dirt. There's a connection to Mother Earth that goes unnoticed to most people, and doing a little gardening brings that right back. So there'll be another video or two before the season's out and I make the final completion of this video, but this gives you an idea. End of August, near the end of season, and There's a healthy bunch of tomatoes that I've already eaten, and it's been a very healthy, productive, fun summer. Okay, here we are near the end of August 25th, I believe, and my borage is just about finished. But you can see the beet tops have been enjoyed. I haven't had any yet, but my neighbor, whose property this really is, she's enjoyed some beet tops. And you can see I'm going to enjoy some beet tops and some beets for supper. If you look close, you can see the peppers coming along. It was a mistake I made forgetting how big the borage was. We're going to make this garden patch a little wider next year and change the layout of what we're putting in. But we've had color and food all summer. So here again, September 1st on the front yard. You can see my kale's got away. I'm going to have to experiment and do a little bit of blanching of it to put away in the freezer. As you can see, the borage is just about done. It's done for the season. I'll be pulling it out and taking the seeds and throwing them along the bank, because they'll seed themselves next year for the bees. The carrots, there's a few carrots that are coming in the background that are good. Once again, look at all that kale. It's and I've been eating tons of it and put it in the soup and everything. So once again, not a very big flower garden, and it's turned into be quite a production of food and color. So it looks good and adds to healthy. And these peppers here are finally starting to produce. You can see the pepper growing on the bottom there. There's 3 of them there. So lots of fun, lots of work, but at the same time grounding to Mother Earth, something that we all need to do a little more of. And the flower pots are still looking good. September 1st. So here we are outside, September 1, climbing up, and take a look at that. That tomato top bent over, wasn't able to keep it going straight. But if it was straight, the tomato tops would be already just over the eaves trough by a little bit. And this baby took off. We've had some hot weather, and that's a good thing. The Portuguese cabbage, man, I enjoy that. It's such a mild flavor, and a leaf in a bowl of soup is just superb. I even threw a leaf of that Portuguese cabbage in an omelet. I'll give you an idea. I'll try to get my hand in there to see you. Looky how big those things are. Those are huge leaves. Huge leaves. That baby's doing good too. This tomato, I didn't get tied up on time, and it kind of got away on me. It's a hodgepodge of a mess in there. But I managed to get quite a few tomatoes out of there today, and they were the ones, some of them were on the table. And peppers are growing in there all right. See, this pepper's doing pretty good. And the coleus finally took off. Look at the parsley. Looks really healthy. Once again, I did put the parsley underneath the magnet. And the purple kale is doing well. More parsley in amongst flowers, and I learned by this experiment in this little section that you could put parsley in amongst your flowers anywhere, and it would bring in some different color of greenery in front of it. So we'll probably do that next year. All different ways that you can make color and beauty and food and the like in a small space, a small flower bed. We're only talking Just a little over 3 feet is all this one is. And it got a lot of produce and a lot of color at the same time in such a small space. Anybody can create a small garden. So here's the flower bed that I did across from the neighbor's yard. All the marigolds are looking really good. And once again, the kale in the background, you can see lots of that. And the neighbor tells me they've been enjoying smoothies. We've given some away, and once again, proof that just a little bit of color and a little bit of sweat, and you can get both food and color out of a small space. I'll just walk around the corner here and take a look from the other neighbor's yard. Looks really beautiful up the sidewalk, or up the driveway, you can see. So I'll soon be taking these borage out as well. And I have had a feed of beets that were in there. Next year the garden will be a foot wider, as I told you before. That goat weed is very invasive into the lawn, so I'm going to add another foot. And next year I won't be putting the borage in the same way. Well, if you remember, I said that it turned out to be a lot bigger than I remembered it to be. But once again, food and color all wrapped up in one. And with a little bit of a wider garden, we would have a real crop of beets and or carrots on either side of the kale. So I think next year, rather than trying to get the coleus to grow in between, I'm going to put kale, pepper, kale, pepper, kale, pepper along the way, and that would add to the vegetation. Kale looks pretty, and the peppers, they're a pretty plant when they stick above. And then put the flowers in front of them, and behind the flowers a row of beets or a row of carrots, and you can get a lot of food and color in a small space. It's fun. Okay, today is September the 1st, and there's a number of tomatoes there from my tomato crop, and a couple peppers there in the back. I don't have much space in this kitchen that I have here, and therefore a lot of junk on my table, but that's just the way the little flat that I rent is. But there is a beginning of the tomato crop, and there is 10 jars of homemade soup with a ton of kale in each one. I won't be doing any more because I found it difficult to get the little wee bit of hamburger in there, not to turn rancid. A few of the jars ended up with pressure popping up, and I've learned that you should have a pressure canner in order to can meat. But these ones don't seem to be turning gassy on the inside, and the lids seem to be still sucked down, so hopefully I've got well, 2 meals in each jar, so I got 20 days worth of food on it. So there you have it, 2021 garden. The Twisted Light Worker gets his hands in the dirt. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a little bit about gardening and how simple it is. I want to share with you now the end results. The peppers. There was more peppers than what the videos actually showed. I got some red hot sauce that I made. Fermented the peppers myself, and this is absolutely delicious. All I did was put the hot peppers. I believe they were habaneros. I'm not even sure. They're round, about that big around, and very hot. And you put them in a jar, sliced, and you submerged them in distilled water, and put a bag on the top to hold the peppers below the top of the water, a bag of water, actually a bag of water. And that holds them down. And then you put the lid on, and every day you have to open it and let the peppers burp, because as they ferment, the gas has to get out. So I made a mistake. I missed a day, and I ended up with a little bit of it coming over the edge and spilling all over the table. So lesson learned. Make sure you have the appropriate lid that has the automatic valve on it to allow the burping to take place, or you have to make sure you let the air out every day. But anyways, this is absolutely tasty hot sauce, and I made this out of the red peppers. Then we had a little bit of frost, and the peppers were obviously finished. They weren't going to be able to survive the frost. It got really cold, and so I took all of the hot peppers that were remaining and green, and I made some hot sauce. It's just as tasty, just as hot in the same process, but it goes to show that if the peppers themselves don't get frozen and start to wilt, if just the plants, then you can take the peppers and still make something worthwhile out of them. And this is really good. Paste that on some chicken and you can get some sweat coming, that's for sure. Yeah, hot mouth. Out of that little bit of flower bed, I've put away 48 jars of canned goods. What this is kale in the tomatoes. So what I did was I pureed the tomatoes in the blender, and then I cooked the kale in the tomato juice, and some of them are without vegetables. And that's just kale and some garlic and a little bit of rosemary and possibly oregano, and I've put a variation in each one. So this one here, as I showed you already, it actually had some frozen vegetables I added in. And I put 5 jars of canned peaches down. So 48 jars in total. All of it came from the garden except for those 5 jars of the peaches. And the kale tomato base is going to make a super tasty soup base all winter long. So 48 jars, I basically got, well, I'm sure I'm going to be able to get 2 meals of soup out of each jar. So therefore, that's basically 96 days of food out of that tiny little bit of flower bed that I've turned into a garden. It goes to show that this time that we're in, this great awakening, this shift of consciousness, is going to bring us back to some of the simpler things in life. You watch. When we get through this, it's going to be an amazing world. And if everybody did that little bit of gardening that I did and shared with their neighbors, get together and decide what to plant, you're going to have a whole lot more variety than what I did. But you can make them look really good. The flower beds look really good from a distance, from the road, in the backyard, along a fence, anywhere you want to put them. Just make them about 3 to 4 feet wide and gauge your planting accordingly to the size. Don't do what I did and forget how big borage gets, because the borage kind of overpowered all of the rest. And I'll tell you a secret. One of the things that I did, I follow a fellow, Ken Wheeler. I call him the Magnet Man. And he has videos on how exposing the seeds to the south pole of a magnet before you plant them will increase the harvest. I did that. And based on the size of those tomatoes that get up that high, like 9-10 feet tall, if they would have been tied properly, I'm sure they would have been 10 feet tall. They were over the 8-foot 2x2 that I braced them with. So it goes to show there's a whole lot more technology than what most people are aware of. And there's a whole lot of information that's been suppressed. And the tomatoes were tasty. I did the same with the impatiens. I used them, I grew all my flowers, all the impatiens were grown from seed from, or pardon me, grown from an impatient that I took into the house last year. And I took clippings off of them and I moved the magnet around and give them all exposure to that. I've never had impatiens grow that big. Never. So the impatiens obviously, and the tomatoes obviously were benefiting by the South Pole exposure, and the parsley as well, and the hot peppers. I guess a couple of the super shepherds that I had in the backyard and the one in the corner yard, they were exposed to the magnet too, and I did get quite a few peppers and enjoyed them. They're really sweet, really tasty. And the hot ones were really hot. They're a real delight. So that kind of sums up some information that I hope that you take to heart. A little bit of gardening. You can have beauty and food. And it didn't take that many hours. And it was absolutely stunning from the road. And people were amazed that I got as much produce out of the gardens as I did. If I'd have spaced the carrots a little bit further behind the impatiens and moved the kale further back on my corner yard, it would have even been better. The carrots, I got a pretty good crop of carrots. I've enjoyed a few meals, and quite a few of them got thrown into soups that I've been making. The smoothies, they're really good with the kale, and to think 48 jars out of just a little tiny flower bed. Not even a garden patch. It's just a flower bed turned into a garden. If that isn't ingenuity at its finest, what is it? So get with it and have some fun. Grow some of your own food, and I guarantee that your kids are going to absolutely get right into it and be totally amazed, and remind them of all of the extra work that they did in weeding and whatnot throughout the summer is fed to them every time you do that. They're going to be looking forward to gardening and learn something of skills that most people have forgotten as time goes on. Silly. If it doesn't come in a pretty box in the store, we don't buy it. Such nonsense. We have to wake up and become a little bit more friendly with our environment, a little bit more aware of how easy it is to have healthy food. So I hope that you like this video and share it. Join my channel, and always look in the description below, because I give you links to other videos that I have made. And if you like my content, buy me a coffee. The Buy Me a Coffee link is in the description. So enjoy. Make 2022 a year of healthy food, gardening, and fun. And I wish you all peace. Peace profound. Peace profound.